Hello, travel biz owner. Welcome to my corner of the travel industry, the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. If you're ready to have fun, be inspired, get clarity, and take action in your travel business, then you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Rita M. Perez. I'm here for a solo episode today, which is hopefully a fun one because I don't think I've ever done like a mid-year review. I was very inspired seeing a couple of other people's posts about a mid-year review, and then also just reflecting because I cannot believe that we are even at I cannot legitimately believe that this episode went live on July 3rd. What is live? So I'm going to be reviewing kind of like my calendar and things that I remember happening along the way to kind of like just review some of the wins and some of the because there is definitely a trend that I'm finding that I haven't before I hadn't fully realized. I think I kind of somewhat knew it, but it didn't occur to me till maybe a couple weeks ago, which is really very interesting and eye-opening. And that's why I kind of shared these types of episodes so that you can just hear what another business owner is doing, even though I'm not doing exactly what you are doing. It can still be really helpful to hear where other people are at and how other people have been like creative to overcome challenges and things like that. So, I'm trying to think if there's any announcements that I need to let you know about. And really the biggest one is that now we are less than a year away from summer camp at sea, my marketing retreat at sea, which we're going to the ABC Islands next year, and advisors are starting to secure their spots. So make sure to get in there because there's only about like 30 to 35 advisors that I'm able to take because I want to be able to handle this group myself and be able to get like really great time with everybody. And I can't really do that if it's more than that many people. So it is limited capacity. You do not have to travel with another advisor. If you did just want to like bring your spouse, or if you wanted to bring a friend to be your roomie, that is totally fine. They would do their thing during the days and we would do our thing during the conference days because there are 4 days at sea since we are heading over to the ABC Islands. So those 4 days at sea, we are going to be in session getting marketing work done. And then once we are in the islands and like through the whole experience, we're obviously going to be getting lots of amazing content. I'm going to be your own personal content photographer and videographer. So you're going to get spectacular images and videos of yourself that you can use pretty much anywhere that you need to be able to use them. I know most people will use them on social media. And then you'll also be putting a pretty bow to your marketing plan while we're there. And then when we are on the islands, you do have free time. Now I am working with some of the tourism boards to see if we can put some like fun things together for you while we are there. So stay tuned about that. But yeah, this is not one of those all work and no play types of retreats. I know some of those do exist. I don't believe in that, especially since we are getting like so much time together and you are taking so much time away, but also investing that time in getting work done because this is also not just a vacation. You will come out with a marketing plan. You will come out with marketing assets. And like most importantly, you're going to come out with like lots of amazing new contacts both inside and outside of the industry, and you're going to be a little bit more confident marketing your business and putting yourself out there because we have been like in this container together. So I'll go ahead and make sure that the link is down below in the show description so that you can join us at summer camp at sea next year. Now let's get into this mid-year review. If you did not know, or if you do not remember, my word for 2026 is stability because I just wanted kind of like a more boring, predictable business that wasn't going up, down, up, down, up, down. And I have not reached that yet, but I have started putting things in motion that's going to help me reach it. And also, I don't think that that's like a 1 year thing. Like, I don't think that's something that can happen in 1 year. I think this is like consistent actions that need to happen over a period of time in order to kind of like feel like that. So this is definitely something a work in progress, but anytime like I am making investments into my business, I always filter it through stability. Like, how will something like this give me stability? And either I invest in the thing or I don't invest in the thing, depending on if it passes that test. So that's kind of like how I use my word of the year to also like keep me stable. So thinking about January, which I feel like January came like really quick, and it's like I'm already thinking about like January next year. And that's also crazy to think about. But at the beginning of the new year, some of you might know I do some work with host agency reviews, and some of that work includes events. So I am like the production person behind like their host week, which happens in January. And then most recently, Hardwired, their tech week that happens in June. So January, I kind of call as slightly a wash. Like, it's not a wash because there's still things that are happening, but like all my personal projects I kind of put like to the wayside and on hold, because I know that January is such a busy month putting host week together. There's a lot of just like event logistics in the background that I have to make sure that they get done on time, so that we have this chef's kiss like beautiful event that comes out of it. January is also when PodFest happens. It's a podcasting conference that always happens here in Orlando, Florida, which is a big benefit to me since it is in my backyard and I can just drive back and forth and have limited expenses. I just pay for my ticket to go. And I'm also pretty smart with how I pay for my ticket to go, because there's always like some sort of video package. So if you purchase the video package, you get all the videos from the current conference as well as a ticket to attend the next conference. So it's kind of like a no-brainer to invest in that. And I just love being able to have that so that I can go to the conference. And then I also love having the videos, because some of the videos that I've been watching recently are just some of the ones that I attended, but like, did I forget something? Is there like a nugget that I really like need to fill in? And also, if there wasn't a session that I couldn't attend, but I was really wanting to attend, those are the sessions that I'm able to watch. So like, that's a really big investment to me, and that kicked off my year really, really well, because I got a lot of monetization ideas for the podcast. So you guys know, if you've been here a bit, like the podcast is like my main hub for everything. I send everybody here. I send everybody to the podcast website. It is my central heart of everything that is this business and this company, which that is another thing that kind of started in January, is that I signed up. I believe it was January. I signed up to do a branding project for what you knew as Take the Helm and what will now be referred to as Steer Your Marketing. So before we like dive into that, because that's a whole other thing, let me get back to the podcasting. So I had mentioned I had gotten a lot of ideas for monetization for the podcast, because of course, like, I don't charge you anything to listen to the podcast. The way that I generate revenue from the podcast is if I can get partnerships for the different events that I'm going to be hosting in the fall, as well as some of my own programs like the Lead Generation Accelerator and the Cruise Content Library. And so, also plug, if you didn't know, Prep for Wave Week is coming. Signups will be available at the end of this month. And I've been feverishly working in the background in terms of like acquiring those partners, as well as amazing speakers for this year, because we do have also a couple of changes for this year. So, I got so many ideas from PodFest on how to do things better that I was already doing, and how to do like more things in terms of these partnerships. And like the biggest takeaway that I got from Podfest, outside of like new relationships with different types of people in the industry, I also met somebody who was a speaker, and we kind of stayed in touch. We were missing each other back and forth, and he was just so generous in sharing with me some of his knowledge when it comes to partnership and sponsorship packages. So while it did take a while to kind of like finally nail him down in the emails and everything, it was just like really eye-opening, and he was very generous with sharing with me. And that's also like one of the things, like, I know I'm going to Podfest for knowledge, and I know I'm going to make connections. I don't know how exactly that is going to come to life. And that is why I'm such a huge proponent of putting yourself out there, going to either industry events or going to like niche specific events. Even like if this can be done virtually, because I've met and connected with a lot of people virtually as well, but there's just something different going to an in-person event and seeing people you haven't seen in a while, or connecting with new people that you may have never had a connection with before. I feel like this is also helping me to like get out of my comfort zone. So like the more events that I go to, I feel like the easier it will be, because like the more Podfests that I go to now, I feel like I'm a Podfest pro, even though I am still a newbie to some of the things when it comes to Podfest. So overall, I would say that January was a win of a month. I also had a friend visiting me on a personal level. And Podfest went out really, really great. So January was a win. I feel like February is always like a hibernation. Like, I feel like January is a hibernation month, even though there's a lot of things to do. I feel like my year really gets started in February, even though it is a little bit of a hibernation month. February is when I was starting to put things together for the lead generation accelerator. So it was a little bit of a building month, and also a little bit of like a catch my breath month. And I can kind of see like now looking back at the month, because I was also doing a lot of things with Rotary. Many of you know that I'm also a member of Rotary, my local chapter. And my chapter in particular was just like getting smaller and smaller. So we had to make some moves. We're no longer a chapter. So I'm now with a different chapter, and I need to get my butt back into gear when it comes back to Rotary, because I have not really done too much outside of like things that happened in February and March in the philanthropic world. So yeah, that was a lot of what was happening in February. There was also a lot of health stuff that was happening in February that kind of trickled into March, because I have been dealing with inflammation really affecting my body since March, which has not been fun. So I kind of feel meh overall when I'm thinking about February, because thinking about like going back to my branding project, which I had mentioned, we didn't really get started, I believe, until like March-ish time. And that was like something I elected to do. Like, I signed up, and I didn't want to start until like I knew like I was a little bit more clear or level-headed. Now, when my branding designer was getting started with March, so we'll kind of like pass February because it was kind of like a snoozer, and lots of things do happen in March. So thinking about March, and thinking about like being so gung-ho about like this branding project, it got delayed because my brand designer had a very serious health situation on her end. And so I was very patient when it comes to that, because I also deal with lots of very serious health things. So I totally like gave her grace when it came to this, and was just really wanting communication on like where the project was. So while I was hoping for it to start in March, it did not really start until like April-ish April and like May is when we really got like more traction on that project. Now, what kind of like giving you an inside look as to why so I've never done branding for Take the Helm, now Stereo Marketing. I've never done official branding for that. And I'm probably, I don't want to go into like so many branding. I might have to just have a separate branding episode. But I knew, because 2026 was my word of stability, I knew that the branding foundation, I needed to have a little bit more stability under that. So it very much aligned with my word of the year, because the branding that you've seen throughout the past 5-6 years for Steer Your Marketing was a logo that my friend created for me in Canva, who's not even a logo designer, but it kind of like carried me to what is now. The colors have like changed a little bit, and the fonts have changed like slightly throughout the years, but there was no like real strategy. It's just what I thought looked good and was legible and what I wanted things to look like. And there was no way for me to, like, I wasn't really proud. If like somebody asked me for my logo, it wasn't something that I was really proud to share. So there were a lot of things that I knew, like I was feeling like I was outgrowing that brand, and I needed to really come in and lean in on the Steer Your Marketing brand to help give me some stability, to help like give that facelift that the business needed. So like I felt like very confident and comfortable like putting my name and putting myself and my brand out there. Now, I always knew that the name was going to change from Take the Helm to something else. And I knew that because a lot of other people were using the term Take the Helm for their business names. Nobody was using it in the same capacity that I was. Like nobody was using it in like business support. I think there's a Take the Helm beer and there's other things that are Take the Helm, but so like technically I guess if I wanted to trademark it, I could just trademark Take the Helm, but I just didn't want there to also be like brand confusion amongst multiple Take the Helm brands. And so this is something that I urge you to think about too. Like if you are in the middle of like naming your business, or if you're thinking about like renaming your business, like that's something that was on my mind. Like if I ever wanted to trademark my business name, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing Take the Helm with so many other names that are also kind of like trademark, but again, different industries. So that's kind of like what pushed me to change names. Also, if you've emailed me, my handle is Steer Your Marketing. So it was easier to transition to that than a whole new name. Though I have had a whole other new name. I already have the URLs for it because I feel like I have two brands within the Steer Your Marketing umbrella. I have the work that I do with you as travel advisors, and then I have the work that I do within brands that are trying to help travel advisors. And so while I wouldn't separate those things out into two different companies, I do feel that there's a brand that's more advisor centered, and then there's a brand that's more brand centered, and those need to have similar but differentish identities, but I'm not ready to build out that second one just yet. So that one's kind of on hold. So that's a little bit about my branding journey before like we really dive off the deep end and start getting into like that story, because I feel like there's more I could tell you about like the branding process. But yes, I did wait 5 or 6 years before doing full branding. I'm kind of glad that I did that because I don't feel like I wasted my money because I didn't have to spend any money. And like, again, I feel like my brand has gotten me to the point to where I'm at, and it was time to graduate to something new. Now, something else that happens big time when it comes to March is that I teach aboard Travel Marketplace on the river. So a lot of that, like in February-ish, I was kind of like preparing for that event and like making sure my slides were ready ahead of time. And that ended up being a great thing because the week leading up to the event, I was dealing with some health things. That's when all the inflammation started. That's when I found out I had a snafu with my health insurance, lost my health insurance for the month. And yeah, that was not a fun month, but thankfully I did do a flash sale. So thank you to everybody who did invest in the consulting flash sale offer, because that helped out with a lot of expenses I was not anticipating. Came back from that amazing trip. So that was a 10-day trip. That was tulip time. It was fantabulous. And then my AC was broken when I came home. So I would overall say that March, man, it wasn't meh. And there were a lot of negative things, but I wouldn't call it a negative month because I did learn a lot from March. So it's a win-ish. Maybe that's how we can call March, just like slightly a win-ish. Because I also got to spend time with a really great friend that like we have not spent time in quite a few years now. So to have like, I legit called her maybe a couple weeks before the river cruise and was like, hey, do you want to attend this event with me and be my guest? And that is what ended up happening. So it won out for me. So yeah, I would say it's a win, but there were some slight detraction from it. April is Travel Tech Audio Month. That's the big thing that I remember from that. So Travel Tech Audio Summit is something that happens actually in May, but I do a lot of the prep work and I do a lot of the recording happening in April. So there was a lot of, so quarter one, and this is kind of like something that I've started noticing. And when I say, I'm like, oh, there's a pattern here. I feel like the first half of the year is not my most revenue producing half of the year. My personal best revenue producing part of the year is the second half of the year, just because there's so many things going on. So when I think about that, because that's something that I'm big on reflecting now, I'm like, well, we kind of need to even that out, because we can't be like tight half of the year and then amazing the second half of the year. We need some stability when it comes to the full year. So those are some things that I'm considering is where am I falling short in the first half of the year that it could be generating more revenue, so it feels like a stable year instead of just waiting for the second half of the year to generate all this income. And I'm not saying that I want less income the second half of the year. I'm just saying I need to figure out a way to bump up the income that comes from January through June, so that it's a little bit more level and I feel a little bit more confident and stable. April, I got my health insurance back. Whoop whoop. And this is like the month I feel like I was starting to get like some answers also, where like there were a lot of questions that came up in March. I also, so many of you know that I do not actively market the travel agency anymore. I just have so much on my plate when it comes to industry work. But I did have somebody reach out to me in April who we had chatted like maybe 3-ish years prior on doing a special group cruise. And so we were able to get on like a Zoom chat and kind of like talk through ideas, because they're thinking about reviving that idea. Not anytime soon, probably in the next couple of years, but it is really exciting, and it kind of like lit a fire that I didn't know that was still there, quite honestly. I also spent a lot of time like connecting with people, because I mean, I connected with those people. I connected with a lot of like tech providers, and I just overall connected with a lot of people who are doing really interesting work. And that's a lot of the work that I love doing, is connecting with other people. And it kind of makes sense, because if you look at like, is it strength? I think it is StrengthsFinder. My top 2, there's 4 like main strengths, and then like you have sub strengths within there. But the 4 categories, relationship building and strategy, are my top 2. So it would make sense that connecting is something that like really fuels me and that I do really well. And something that I'm always looking at is, how can I combine my strength of connecting with people and my strength of strategy into income that I can generate for my business. Now, I do have to say, like, sometimes like the whole income conversation can be a little bit icky, because I know many of you might not necessarily be thinking about generating income, like you were just trying to get into this business to do something fun. But income is what fuels everything in our business. Like any wishes and dreams that we might have, it also helps fuel doing good for other people, which right now in this point of time, like my heart is with the people of Venezuela and everything that they are dealing with. And like, that's like, those are the things that I think about. Like, I know my local Rotary district, and I'm so glad that they are putting something together to help the people of Venezuela. But those are like, how can I help the world out in its time of need, are also things that I think about with generating income. Not only that my needs are met and then I'm able to meet like all my wishes and dreams. Like, I'm not a sleazy, I don't want to be a sleazy billionaire or trillionaire that just lets the money sit up there. Like, I want to do good in this world. And I know many of you also want to do that and also have philanthropic efforts. So you need income and resources to be able to do that. So those are some of the things that I think about when I'm like, okay, how can I use the best talents that I have to do better for those that need the help when they do need the help? So overall, I feel like and I feel like kind of Q2 overall was a big connection quarter. And I did mention this to my people that are inside of, my friends inside of marketing business school. Like, Q1, maybe not my favorite. Q2, I loved Q2. Also in April, I was starting to realize that I was turning 40 the next month in May, and I need to get my butt on that. So there was, I would say April was a high in between of connecting with people and then also being able to start thinking about like events that were happening in May. Because if we're moving to May, so April I would say is a good month. May was a spectacular month. And I did turn 40 in May. We had a really great staycation in May. I also went to the Women in Travel Summit, which just, you heard a couple podcast episodes ago, it knocked I don't know if an event could like top this event. That's how good it was. And the couple of connections that I'm making, there's starting to be like some magic coming from there, which is super duper exciting. So, beginning of May, we had Travel Advisor Day. You had the Travel Tech Audio Summit come out, and I've heard some really great things about some of the technology that was featured. So I'm always open to, if you know any other technology partners that you think are a really great benefit for that event, let me know. So maybe I can pin them down for next time. There was also my vendor event. So that also happened in May. I spent some time, we both spent some time with our families. We spent some time with my mom for celebrating her birthday and Mother's Day. And then we also spent some time with my partner's family. So yeah, I feel like the beginning part of May was a little bit slower just because there weren't as many things going on. And then the end was just connection. And part of June was me following up with people and getting back and connecting with them. So, there are some things that I might do or might change as far as like the whole connection piece. And I think it got a little sticky because the vendor event that I was at was the Saturday before I was starting to go on vacation. So like timing was a little weird. So I couldn't do my follow-ups like as soon as I wanted to. But once I was able to do some follow-ups, it ended up being really, really great. Still working on some of those, both from that vendor event and then also from the Women in Travel Summit. I was also doing a lot of consultations in May since many people have booked them like at the end of March. I was doing a lot of consultations both in April and in May. And then I kind of wrapped some of those up. I think maybe there's only one consultation from that offer that is still left to do. So was talking to a lot of people about like different launches, about different ideas that they had for the travel industry, and like that, like all those things kind of get me on fire. I also was talking a lot about like your marketing and how you can improve your marketing. And I feel like the one biggest thing, the thing that's kind of like most resonating is you have got to get specific in your marketing. And I know we talked a lot about that last week in that episode, in the social media episode, but also thinking about like people that I've spoken to throughout the past couple of months and why they're still not making traction, it's because you are not calling out your person in your social media marketing, or in fact, in any marketing. Even if you're just talking to people at a networking event, being very specific of, I help moms finally take that solo vacation away from the kids that they've been craving for the past 5 years. Like, being super specific about what exactly you do. Like, I help C-suite executives like finally use that PTO time that they keep brushing off, or that they lost last year. There was somebody today on one of my social media posts that she works with solo travelers who are cruising. So being very specific on that, but also like niching it down. Like, is this solo female travelers? Is this solo non-binary travelers? Whoever it might be. Like, if you think you've niched down, but you're still not getting traction, there are a couple other levers that you can pull when it comes to your marketing. But that's one of the biggest ones. So like, if every post starts off like just very generic, like the generic content just is not working anymore on social media. Like, everything is hyper specific. It's not just specific, it is hyper specific. Like, on my birthday, and it can either do really great for you depending on your audience, also kind of depending on like when you post it. So again, like, it can do great or it can like flop. So you're gonna have to, this is what the testing mode is. You're gonna have to be comfortable with flopping even though you think something is amazing. Because like, I remember my birthday, I had said, if you didn't do X, Y, and Z on your birthday, did you even celebrate your birthday? And it was pretty much just saying all the things that I did that day, which was, I went to the Dali Museum. What else? There were 3, it's something about like, I went to the Dali Museum, I watched Bravo, and I ate a cupcake or something like that. There were 3 things in there, but like, being very specific, because even if it doesn't attract ideal clients, it's going to open up conversations. And that's what you want social media to do, because conversations is where the magic happens. Again, it doesn't have to be just like a sale. It can just be connecting and like gabbing with somebody. Like, I love chat. Like, I've chatted to people over Bravo stuff, and now I'm chatting to people over Broadway stuff, and those are like 2 of my favorite things. And so to be able to connect with the stuff that I nerd about is like, the grin on my face right now is so stupid because I'm so excited about it. So May was definitely a win. And then thinking about June, thankfully, when it comes to Hardwired, the Host Agency Reviews Tech Week, that one is a little bit, it's a shorter event. And so it's not as like all encompassing like Host Week is. So it doesn't like take the wind out of your sails per se, like something like a Host Week would do. Now, I was able to focus on a lot more of like my items, because June has been a lot about finding sponsors and partners for my events. It has also been about finding speakers. So I've been looking back on a lot of your feedback to shape some of these speakers that I'm going to have this year at Prep for Wave Week. So it's been a more behind the scenes type of month. And then we had those 2 killer podcast episodes, one right after the other, which were also inspired kind of like by DM conversations. Now, granted, like that social media panel, I have been wanting to, like, I have been thinking about that for maybe close to a year. And then I was really thinking to do something at the end of the year. It just didn't come to fruition. And so when it kind of came all together in just a couple of days, it was fantastic. So I'm just really glad that worked. And I'm so glad to hear like from so many people that it was really, really helpful. That one, and then also the one with Courtney and Larry, which I will be having come back. Now, normally the next couple of episodes would be about the summer selling series, but because I was so consumed with different events in May, I did not do well with pre-planning and getting interviews for the summer selling series. Now, I will also say I have not gotten a lot of feedback regarding the summer selling series. Like, I haven't heard you say that you love the series. I haven't heard you say that you hate the series. So that also kind of contributed to me to not like really moving forward. I was actually supposed to have a meeting with somebody today to record an episode, not to record, but like to prep and like to talk about it. And it fell through, unfortunately. So I am going to be creative because I kind of like to take a little bit of downtime when it comes to the podcast and the summertime, which is why I like having a couple different interviews kind of like do the work for me instead of like me coming to the podcast all the time. So I've been thinking about like doing a lot more reading when it comes to business. So I might do like maybe like book reviews these next couple of weeks. But if you have any ideas for topics for episodes, just let me know and maybe we can brainstorm something together for the next couple of weeks because I will be driving it back in when it comes to August because we will be full on in all things prep for Wave Week and prepping for prep. That sounds funny to say that. I will say too, like June is when I got all of my branding assets together. So slowly but surely you're going to be seeing like the new branding coming out. You probably notice like some slight changes in colors and fonts and things like that. So just stay tuned. If there's anywhere where you happen to spot that it still says take the helm or something looks out of place or you still see the former logo, please let me know so I know to update that. Because we do need to, I do need to like move forward. And I will say like I transitioned all of so if you were following Take the Helm on social media, you're now following Steer Your Marketing on social media. That was a big move because I knew I was going to have to change that at the beginning of the year. And I was like, I don't want to change anything until I really have to change everything. And thankfully, like I knew that the handles were available. This whole time I had been keeping an eye on them, but it was just time since I have the new branding and I'm starting to implement that and put it into place. So I feel like July is going to be a very big rebirth almost type of a month. And then also like we're grinding in there because on top of the getting ready for speakers and partnerships, I've created a new landing page for Prep for Wave Week that will live on the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur podcast. So hopefully, like when you go on that page, it just looks a lot better in terms of like the landing page that you've seen before that is on my course platform. And you'll still like when you have to do the payments and everything for Prep for Wave Week, you'll do it over there. There are going to be a couple of changes for Prep for Wave Week this year, but I won't talk about that till the end of the month. I will say like having done, so June, I will say also ended up on a high because I got my branding. There was somebody that helps business owners like myself. There was a lot of education that was happening behind the scenes. So I'm kind of like finessing and fine tuning things that can generate some like passive revenue for myself. I also met like a really cool tech founder that we had kind of met at WITS. Now I'm trying to figure out like how we connected post WITS. I think it was like through LinkedIn, and then she scheduled a coffee chat with me, a virtual coffee chat with me. So you never know like where things are going to happen. You just have to be in the right rooms, which is why like niching is so important. I took on one of my friends in the industry as a coaching client, and she has been killing it. So she's like in a 4-month program. And we were discussing on Voxer today about like the importance of niching down, that so many things in her business, like marketing for her business has gotten so much easier because she's niched down and because she's owning the title that she's given to herself, that she is this is what she does like within travel. And like she had a recent discovery call and she was so much more confident in the discovery call. Like I'm telling you, I know it's hard in the beginning because you don't want to turn away any business, but your business gets so much easier because it's so much clearer when you niche. And I think like maybe that's what a lot of January to June also helped me with is that I honed in a lot. I got a lot more clarity on like the things that I want to do, the things that I don't want to do. I also got very clear on a couple of changes. Like there's a program that I have that is probably going to be changing formats, and I'm purposely being very elusive because I haven't made final decisions yet. There's another program that I have that I am retiring at the end of this year, and something else will kind of take its place because I've heard the need to be there, but it's going to be a little bit different. And the thing that I'm retiring is just something that hasn't been as popular as I really, really wanted it to be, but it has been so impactful. So I have delayed retiring it. I don't want to say quitting per se, because I'm hoping that parts of this beautiful program will be repurposed into other sorts of knowledge that I can share on, because I still think a lot of the things that are in there are very beneficial. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot of clarity and then also like foundation for transformation for the end of the year, because I feel like all the clarity and kind of like the behind the scenes work has laid the foundation to be a kick booty second half of the year. Like we still have 6 more months. Anything can change. And I know things are going to change because I know that that's what happens at the second half of the year for me. And so, while there is something that's kind of a big, huge thorn in my side that kind of appeared last month in June, not health related, everybody's safe and sound. So it is a big thing. I don't really plan on discussing what that big thing is, but it is an unpleasant thing that will hopefully also be resolved soon. Despite that happening, I just have so much hope. And I think I have so much hope because I've made it so. It's not that this just happened and I got lucky. And I know like that's a theme that's been popping up recently, is people have been saying like, I'm so good. I perform at social media really well. I can like do speaking opportunities really well. And I'm like, that only happened because I practiced it and I kept doing it and I kept putting myself out there and I keep putting myself out. Like, that's the only way that any of us can keep getting better. You just have to be brave enough to put yourself out there. And I know that that can also be a scary thing because I did a lot of scary things this month putting myself out there. But that is the only way to receive dividends, is to do the scary thing. I say this all the time. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that is where growth lies. So I know we went in a couple of different places, but I hope that this was a really great overview for you and like a sneak peek behind some of the things that I have been cooking here. Let me know what you think about the new branding as you see it. You will see some bits of it if you are on my email list, in my Friday email, or if you're in Marketing Business School or Cruise Content Library, you probably have seen those bits already in the emails that I've sent out. More to come because I did create a couple. I had a couple more logos created, not by me, by my amazing designer. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for being here, being subscribed to the podcast, and always supporting me and what we do and what everybody else that I brought forth to you does, because this is how we keep this thriving. This is how we make the industry better. I know there's not going to be resources everywhere. Like your host might not offer this type of education or real talk, or even like offer people to like speak about these types of things. And it can be your host, it can be your consortium, it can be whoever your mentee or mentor is. But this is the whole purpose of why this podcast was created, was to share with you. And I very much appreciate anytime you've shared the podcast, anytime you've shared any of my programs, if you've done a review, if you've written a review for the podcast on your podcast player. Every little bit helps. Like, it's not just purchasing and enrolling into my programs, every little bit of like good publicity out there does help. So huge thank you. If you celebrate the 4th of July, have a wonderful and safe weekend with all these fire thingies that are coming out. And I will see you here again next week. Bye. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Remember to check out the show notes for all relevant links and resources from today's show. See you next time.